Welcome back. All right, so yeah, news of the day video, and I'm back on the set today, not out amongst the wilderness. So, news of the day starts off with kind of a fun story from last night's Leafs game where the Rock started a chant of "Let's go Leafs." Now, if you've been to Toronto or if you've watched Toronto games on TV, you know the chant is "Go Leafs, go." Nobody will correct the Rock. The Rock might be onto something. I will say that I thought the same thing as a lot of other people thought that hey, go Leafs go hasn't worked for the team since '67, so maybe change it to Let's Go Leafs and see if things change. But either way, kind of a fun moment during a game that the Leafs dominated. They had the first 11 high danger chances, and Samsonov knew that he had to stay focused. He was nervous, admits he was nervous before the game, excited to beat his former team. So it's amazing how quickly a storyline can change from a team that underachieves against Montreal to one that did pretty well against the Washington Capitals. So again, we're only 2 games into the season. We got 80 left to go, but Toronto definitely giving us some entertainment, and the Rock helping with that as well. One thing coming out of last night's game too, and through the first 2 games of the season, it is obvious that the Capitals to this stage are not playing like they hoped before the season got started. And one thing that's being noticed is without Tom Wilson, there is a huge difference to that team's forward group. They do miss Backstrom, I think, as well. No offense to Dylan Strome at all. I think Strome's done as well as he can, but they miss Backstrom and I think they miss Wilson. And not only that, those are 2 veteran leaders on this team as well. So for the Capitals, obviously it's not panic stations or anything at this point, but you can tell they're missing those players, and it'll be I'll be curious to see if they do something to address this. If they go another week and a half of these kind of rough results that we're seeing so far. But yeah, I you can't replace Tom Wilson. He is a unique player. I would say the same of Backstrom and his experience. And so yeah, and another noteworthy thing is Ovechkin doesn't have a goal in those first 2 games. That'll change. He's had some shots that have been close, and he's had some that have been blocked. So he will get his goals. But the Capitals are going to be an interesting one to watch this year. Columbus news for tonight. Tarasov is going to be the starter with Elvis as the backup. Elvis, of course, battling an illness that caused him to have to call up Jet Greaves as an emergency recall the other day. But one player that will not be in the lineup as a backup or as an active player is Patrick Laine, who is out 3 to 4 weeks. It's an elbow sprain for him, and this is just an absolute shame for Laine, for the Columbus Blue Jackets as well. You had this two-headed beast of Gaudreau and Laine on either side of Jenner, and now we're going to have to wait 3 to 4 weeks before we see them on the ice together again. And of course, that means you have to avoid other injuries as well. I did mention when I was talking about storylines to watch for this season. It's always interesting to see which teams end up fighting the injury bug earliest, and then at the end of the year we could talk about which one fought it the most, right? Big signing yesterday, and the reason I'm wearing a Flyers jersey, they win a game last night. It was against New Jersey, so there's some who will say, well, it's the Devils, so whatever. But I will say they looked very good. They looked like a team that's got a coach that's has everybody buying in right now to the system he's coaching. Tortorella has a good record of turning teams around. I know people bring up Vancouver, but Vancouver's the exception. Vancouver is this bewildering exception where Messier didn't look like a leader. Tortorella had a rough time of it. Great coaches, great players. It doesn't always work in Vancouver, but it seems to be working at least again that one game, and it's just the one game. But they believe in Sanheim as being part of this team. He has signed an 8-year extension. Looks a lot like Mackenzie Weegar's. $50 million he's going to make over that 8 years, $6.25 million per season. So for Sanheim, he's going to be a Flyer for a very long time to come. I think that's a fair cap hit. I don't think people are going to find too much trouble with it. I know that there will be those who say, oh, 8 years is too long. It's the standard now. It's the norm. We are seeing a lot of players signing 8-year contracts, and they're going to be on every team. So yeah, Sanheim gets that. Philadelphia, and the first thought I had when I saw that too was, man, Philadelphia's going to have a really expensive defense, but if they can keep playing under Tortorella the way that I know he can help a team play, then it might be just fine. New York Rangers hype. Who's on the hype train? Everybody's on the hype train right now. Through 2 games, Artemi Panarin with a goal and 4 assists. Zibanejad, 2 goals, 2 assists. Kreider with 2 goals and 1 assist. And then on the blue line, you've got Keandre Miller with 2 assists, and he's a +5. So Miller's off to a very good start. Plus minus is not a stat I pay attention to when it's over that full 82 game season. But when it's 2 games, sure, you can look at plus minus and say, wow, he's been on the ice for some goals for, and not so much with the goals against. And Igor Shesterkin, who I don't think has been great. I think he's been very good. Don't take offense. I just don't think he's had to be fantastic. 935 save percentage in those 2 wins. So yeah, that's the scary thing. Shesterkin, when he's playing well, and he's got some highlight reel saves, but you're still thinking to yourself, well, but he's got another gear, doesn't he? Yeah, he's already got a 935 save percentage. Yesterday for the Vancouver Canucks, Kevin Bieksa decided to retire as a member of the Canucks. He signs a 1-day contract to retire in Vancouver. It's a shame he ever left Vancouver, to be honest. I wish he'd played his whole career as a Canuck. He was a player that never took a shift off. He was one of the hardest working players, and that was from his days in the AHL to when he made his debut. And I remember there being complaints about the Canucks blue line when Bieksa had a spot after that first season and being like, well, Bieksa's in this top 6. It's not going to be very good. Bieksa proved a lot of doubters wrong and had a really good run with the Vancouver Canucks. Interesting note when it comes to injuries, players can defy expectations. Toropchenko in St. Louis is one such player. He was supposed to be out till December, but he's been out. He's been doing drills, and he feels fine. So the team, of course, doing their due diligence to make sure that he is okay. He feels like he's ready to go. He was supposed to be out till December. Nope, he could be ready for this team's debut, which I'm assuming is tomorrow. Because, yeah, there's a lot of games tomorrow. And at some point, St. Louis has to play some games, right? So tomorrow seems like as good a day as any. Grzelcyk could also play tomorrow for the Boston Bruins. And I'm saying play tomorrow because the news is he could return this weekend. Well, there's no games on Sunday. So that would mean he'd be playing tomorrow. That's big news for the Boston Bruins. Grzelcyk, the expectation was he might be out for a bit into the regular season. If he only misses 1 game, that's a huge add for them. And then, of course, you turn your attention to Marchand. Marchand's made it clear he will come back as soon as possible. Doesn't care what the doctors say or trainers say. He is pushing to get back as quickly as possible. He wants it to be November 1st at the latest, which is only a couple of weeks from now. And we'll see what shape the Bruins are in. They do need Marchand, but they need Grzelcyk. Grzelcyk is an underrated defenseman in the NHL. The Detroit Red Wings for tonight's game, going to be a beefy third line. So Daily Faceoff pointing this out, and I thought it warranted some discussion in this video. This third line is huge. Soderblom, 6'8". And let's be honest, at some point it's going to be 6'10", 6'11". Rasmussen, 6'6". In the middle of this line, and then Sundqvist, a tiny 6'3". So that's a towering line right there. That's your triple tower, your 3 tall guys. I don't know what line this or what tag this line is going to get, but if that line stays together, and it's early, right? You're into your first game of the season. You have no idea what lines are going to stay together, but if this line stays together, we'll see what kind of name they get. If it's the beef line, like what do you call it when their average height is like 6.5 foot tall? That's insane. That's ridiculous. And I'm sure that when they're out on the ice together, it's going to be obvious they're bigger than the other team. So yeah, Yzerman's got this plan. He's put in motion. Soderblom is looking like he's a steal late in the draft for them from a few years ago. And it'll be fun to watch them tonight. One thing is, with just the 2 games starting at 4 o'clock, I'll have a lot of time to watch Tampa, Columbus, as well as Montreal and Detroit. And so I should get a good eyeful of what these guys are able to do. It will be interesting. Of course, Montreal trying to continue what they started against Toronto. Because remember, as I've said, teams tank, teams try to tank. The players themselves don't. The players want to win as much as possible. They don't care about draft picks next year. They want to win. They don't commit to training camp and go through all this to lose. So there will likely be one of the teams that I profiled that could have been in on Bedard that probably ends up overachieving. Could be Philadelphia, could be Montreal. I don't think it's going to be Arizona or Chicago based on early returns, but it is very early. Let me know your thoughts in the comments section below as always. Don't forget to hit like and subscribe if you're browsing your way through, you just happened upon this video. Thank you guys so much for watching, for all your support. I will talk to you again soon.